Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and I'm very pleased to have with me today Melinda Sensabaugh, ENP, and Robert Harris, also ENP, President of Communications Advantage. Thank you very much for joining me here at Enterprise Connect.
Thanks for having us, Doug.
So the topic is 911, and let's bring us up to date. I think you guys just were on a panel about this topic. Tell me all about it.
Well, I was on the panel, and actually Melinda is the ENP, but we were on a panel about next generation 911, and the panel had several participants who were within the industry providing services, technical services, and platforms around next generation 911. My take on it is I'm actually an enterprise independent consultant, and we help people through a service that we have called 911 Comply Point to comply with the new laws, Carrier's Law and Ray Baum's Act, and make sure that they're following safety procedures that work to put them in compliance.
So what do enterprises need to know today about 911?
Okay, well, I'd say that I actually gave an example, the least technical example in the panel, and I'll repeat it here. I'll go out and for example, at a college campus and test, and college campuses maybe put in a Zoom phone system, and they say, if you use your cell phone, 911 will know where to reach you. And so when we go out and test, sometimes the signal is up to a half a mile away. You know, it doesn't always triangulate with the towers. Meanwhile, the bicycle cannabis delivery service guy with his little phone app, calls up and says, Drew, and finds the guy he's looking for in just seconds. And so what next generation 911 does is it puts 911 services on that same IP network that all those apps like Uber and DoorDash and everything else we've come to grow and love, to love. All of those apps are on an IP network and can give richer information and more precise information than the old carrier network that 911 is on for mobile devices right now.
What else do I need to know if I'm an enterprise right now?
So one of the reasons I started consulting, I came out of supporting a municipality and local government and insurance company. And as a telecom engineer or manager at that time, when these laws came out, primarily in the state of Michigan, where I'm from, when those laws came out for E911, I found it a little confusing to decipher through the different vendor solutions, the different perspectives on what we needed to do, and that type of thing. And so I really got engaged in learning from the industry experts about 15 years ago, honestly, about next gen and E911, and then since then Carrier's Law and Ray Baum's Act has come out. And so one of the things to understand is it's not just program your phone system. Today's 911 works with a phone number and an address, and we need to make sure those are accurate. But like we were talking about, next gen 911 that'll be a complete IP network. Right now, we use selective routers, which are analog technology. And so the avenue that I've been able to work in, coming out of supporting first responders at a municipality to working with a global carrier called Bandwidth, that is fully inundated into the 911 infrastructure, and consulting, I'm able to help, the three facets, right? So we have the end user calling 911. We have the carrier that handles that traffic. And then we have the PSAP that receives that. And so my primary focus now as a consultant is really to help PSAPs update their technology so they can receive the data we're going to be sending them. And so you really have to have a good understanding of all three of those pieces.
So Melinda, when do people reach out to you? When do they need you to come in and help?
Oh, that's a great question. Sometimes people don't know what they don't know, and so it's nice for us to have opportunities like this to get in and explain the complexities, right? Because people think 911 works. It's been around 50 years until they use it and have a problem, right? And so we really try to get out and educate people in advance on, you might need some help with this.
Yeah, I would add to that. There's a couple of areas of the regulations with the FCC that are deliberately ambiguous. If you read all of the discussion in the report and order around them, it's actually designed to give people flexibility. But for example, when an enterprise or an institution sees the terms "to the extent technically feasible," they automatically think, "What does that mean?" And we go out and help them determine and make sure that they're doing the best effort. Does that mean that you might have to map the location of every wired network port? Well, it possibly does. But on the other hand, it doesn't. It means that in some cases, for example, a overlapping wireless network, you may have some flexibility as long as it's just projecting on the same floor. Anything that you're using to map a location against a device, whether it's a mobile device on a soft phone or whether it's a wired hard phone, you have to program it to the extent technically feasible. With next generation 911, technical feasibility will increase because as technology improves, the precision will improve. And that's why, from an occupational safety standpoint, we use the principle of continuous improvement to make sure that people have that within their workflow, to look at improvements in that process and make sure that they stay compliant.
We understand next gen 911. Is that being driven because there needs to be an improvement in 911, or is that being driven by changes in the technology and the incumbent or host wherever we are in a building or something like that?
It goes back to what we said earlier, like why can't Uber find us and
Right.
911
Well, that's a
can't?
good question. How come Uber can't?
Right.
Yes.
And it's because of the analog technology. It's really the analog technology and the selective routers don't allow any data other than the phone number to go through. And then there's a master street address guide that holds the address, and then that's sent to the PSAP. And so NextGen will allow multiple facets of technologies to go through.
Yeah,
So we will get to that point.
Yeah, I'd say that the big driver is the original 911 network was really designed for wired telephone systems.
Right.
And next
That's what
generation
it's saying.
911.
Yeah.
Now, over 80%, in some areas, depending on how metropolitan the area is in coverage, at least 80% of 911 calls are made from a mobile device instead of from a wired telephone station. So that location problem that was originally first for wired phones and then for voice over IP, now someone can unplug their phone and plug it in somewhere else. Now it's someone can walk to another area and you need to be able to find them during an emergency. So by moving it off, the triangulation of cell towers doesn't work. And I found that in the field testing we're done in almost all cases. So by sending a GPS signal like you get with Uber or DoorDash over an IP network instead of the traditional analog network where they're just trying to find you, through other third-party means, it adds precision that's really necessary to make 911 location effective.
Right, and so with NextGen 911, it'll give the ability to transfer to a PSAP, now called an ECC or Emergency Call Center, across the US. Today, if a call's misrouted, especially a cell call, to the wrong PSAP, they can't transfer always to the right 911 center. It's only to a bordering PSAP. But with NextGen 911, they'll be able to transfer across to any PSAP. And then the data that they're allowed to get, it's a SIP technology. The SIP header can have camera access, door access, whatever they want to share with the 911 center. So it really opens the door for sharing a lot of relevant information like floor plans, anything like that.
Yeah,
The 911
that's
center.
really a great point, Melinda, because even though it's really is driven by the need for mobile phones, it does add better capabilities with wired phones. A good example is a few years ago, an 8-year-old boy was pulled out of a swimming pool in a community center, and the wall phone that they used, a wired telephone, not mobile, to call 911 wasn't mapped properly, went to a national center in Colorado, and then got transferred to an answering machine back in St. Louis County. That led to an $8 million settlement, but also the boy not making it, and medically certified as that extra 8 minutes or whatever it was enough to make a huge difference. So those kind of tragedies, just in in being able to make sure that phones, proactively monitor and make sure phones are mapped. And also on the back end with the 911 centers, all of that, the next generation 911 adds that as a benefit, even though the most dramatic change will be for wireless.
So as we wrap up our podcast, and we are going live, so all the things that happen live do happen live. I made an error about ENP, its
Yeah.
special designation.
Yeah.
And Robert, I appreciate the fact you pointed out you are the president of the organization, but Melinda's actually, in fact, ENP. What does ENP mean?
Emergency numbering professional, and in the 911 space, it's a very prestigious title. And I was encouraged to get the title and take the test and certification when I became a consultant. And so it means we're specialized in public safety.
This is, I'm calling the attention, by the way, I mislabeled you at the beginning of the podcast, corrected it while we were talking as ENP.
Well, that's
Robert.
fine. Yeah.
But I'm in a way glad that I did that because it brings attention to this special title that as people are shopping around for a person to come in and talk to them, ENP does mean something. It's important for them.
Yeah.
Because we're certified on all technologies for the 911 center, regulations around the 911 center, the old technologies and the new technologies, and we test for all of that and keep current. We renew our certifications every 4 years.
Yeah, and that being said, Organization Communications Advantage, we are part of the NENA, the National Emergency Number Association, where EMPs live. And we're also part of the National Association of Safety Professionals because we really are, our philosophy is every technology actually has a client. And in our case, we believe that it's employee safety is the client for 911. Unless it's SolarWinds or some network
Right.
monitoring tool, it's rarely the IT department. So we really focus on a holistic approach to 911 compliance. So we go above and beyond just checking the boxes off for Carrie's Law and Ray Baum's Act.
Well, Melinda and Robert, I really want to thank you for joining me today. This is a huge topic. There's a lot to cover, but thank you for giving us a little bit of a glimpse, a little bit of an update, a sampling here at least of Next Gen 911 and what's happening here at Enterprise Connect. Where can we learn more and where can people find more resources to learn more about the 911 issues confronting enterprise in China?
They can find it. They can go to www.communicationsadvantage.com. And there's a contact form there. They can find me, Robert Lee Harris, on LinkedIn. And if you message me, I actually have a great white paper about the integration of 911 call compliance as a worker safety issue that will really explain how, and really bring it together, how it all works together as a single discipline.